Good morning and welcome to EFSA webinar on a notification of studies, how to create a pre-application ID and the list of intended studies. My name is Goran Kumrić and I am the communication officer in the front desk and workforce planning units in EFSA, and I will be moderating this webinar today. This webinar is a continuation of our webinar series organized in support to applicants and other stakeholders to help you to better understand the requirements of the transparency regulation, new processes and tools. Today we have participants representing food industry, laboratories, consultants, research organizations from across Europe and worldwide. I see now some 140 participants in the room. Thank you for joining us. With this slide, I would like to present the objective and the goal of today's webinar. This webinar will present the new features of the system following the recent digital enhancement of our IT tool platform Connect EFSA. In particular, we will explain how to create a pre-application ID and manage the list of intended studies and study notifications. This webinar we will aim to support applicants and to enhance our dialogue with stakeholders. Participants will have the opportunity to ask questions during the webinar. At the beginning, I would also point out what would be out of the scope of today's webinar. Clarifications about aspects of the authorization process, clarifications on the application procedure, including legal aspect of the notification of studies, for example, acceptability of justifications on deviations from notification of study obligations, procedural consequences in case of deviations. Next slide, please. So to give the structure of today's webinar, we can look into the agenda. Together with me, we have a team of EFSA colleagues. We have three presenters, Thomas Rovesti, Sara De Berardis, and Federico Moreale. In the back scene, we also have Ilaria and Ingrida supporting us. We have a number of colleagues with us from the event organization unit, Federico, Alice, Simona, Walter, Carolina, everybody supporting us from behind the scene. A bit on the structure of the webinars, presenters will go through the various phases of the procedure and also present the presentation plus live demo. You can submit questions via the question and answer feature on the top navigation menu of your interface. Questions and answers will be then handled either in written during the webinar or at the dedicated question and answer session where we will look into more complex questions. Next slide, please. Before we start, just a few technical instructions on how to use our portal, a webinar guide for attendees. So practically information will be explained how to, I will explain how to this interface is working. You will be automatically connected on the listen only mode. In the presentation window, you will see the presentations and the speakers delivering the presentations. On the right-hand side, you have the question and answer box, which you can use and submit the questions related to the topic of the webinar. This webinar is recorded and a webinar is in English. Questions should be also submitted in English. Some questions will be answered in written and some will be answered orally during the question and answer session. And If some questions still remain unanswered, you can resubmit them via Ask a Question tool at the Connect EFSA platform. We will provide you also with the link at the end of the presentation. Presentation will be made available at our website in a few days after the webinar. Just to mention also that we have our colleague Walter from Service Desk IT Support. In case you would face any IT technical issues with the connection, please contact Walter. So this is all what I have to say at the beginning, and let's start with the webinar. Now I give the floor to our first presenter, Thomas. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Goran. Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Rovesty, and I work as a data officer in iData unit. The recent digital enhancement of Connect EFSA in July introduced major changes to the tool, especially to intended studies and the list of intended studies. Before diving into the practical demonstration, let me summarize what led us to the redesign of the tool and briefly touch upon the new layout. Next slide, please. Our aim with this enhancement was to improve user experience when working on pre-submission activities by creating a single access point for potential applicants who are creating pre-application IDs. To better distinguish pre-submission activities in relation to Article 32C1 by creating a dedicated section for the list of intended studies and the renewal pre-submission advice. To introduce two separate paths, one for intended studies for renewal and one for notified studies. To give the possibility to submit a list of intended studies and at the same time create and notify other studies under one pre-application ID. And to implement a mechanism to convert an intended study into notifiable draft study to avoid manually creating two records for the same study. Let's now have a look how it looks like in more practical terms. The single access point was achieved by merging together the section for new applications, which prior to the changes hosted notifications of studies according to Article 32B and General Pre-Submission Advice, Article 32A, and section renewals, which provided an umbrella for list of intended studies for renewal according to Article 32C1, public consultation, renewal pre-submission advice, general pre-submission advice, and notification of studies according to Article 32B. On the new layout, we now call this section simply pre-application IDs. Next slide, please. The other changes are to be best explained on this layout. Under each pre-application ID record, you can now find entity studies for study notifications according to Article 32B, entity pre-submission advice, and newly created entity list of intended studies. Under this entity, you can create intended studies, submit public consultation, and request pre-submission advice on renewal. You will find here also the new functionality to convert intended studies into draft notifiable studies. Now I will pass the floor back to Goran.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for these introductory slides. And we will move now to the live demo part, where we will have two parts. With the first live demo part, we will look into the study notifications and submission of the list of intended studies from the pre-application ID, as well as creation of identified intended studies and submission of the list of intended studies. While in the second part of the live demo, we will look into how to convert an intended study into a draft notifiable study and study notification possibility to notify while a list of intended studies submitted. I would invite our colleague Federico to take the floor with the first live demo.
Thank you, Goran, for inviting me. I'm Federico from FTP unit and scientific officer, and now I will show you the live demo, the part 1, specifically on notification of studies, creation of a list of intended studies from the pre-application ID, and then when we are going to create a list of intended studies, I will show you also how to submit it. Community users, when access Connect EFSA, can see this main dashboard that is your welcome portal. And from this page, they can go in the application section. And then to create the pre-application ID, they can go in the pre-application ID section. If you have already created some pre-application ID, you will find them listed in this section here below. If not, you can create a new pre-application ID with this button on the top. If I click the button, the system will redirect me in the form of the pre-application ID page, and I have to fill all these fields before click confirm. So for instance, today I will show you an example that is only an example for the purpose of this webinar on how to create a pre-application ID related to a feed additive renewal. So let's say that I want to select a name for my pre-application ID like renewal of XYZ as feed additive for all animal species. So as you can see, the request name is related to your request, so basically to your future application. Now in this field, you should indicate the business operator, that is your organization. And instead, if you are a consultant working for another business operator, you should indicate here the name of your client, so not the name of your consultancy organization. In the field food domain, I will select for day-to-day example feed additive, and in the application type that is related with the renewal. In the field subject of the application, you should indicate the regulated product that is your subject of the application. So in this case, X, Y, Z. You can leave notes for EFSA, or you can confirm the information in the form like this. After you confirm, the system will create the pre-application for you and will show you all the information in a page like this. So with the details of your pre-application ID, the information that you submitted, the possible operation that you can do in the pre-application ID, and a list of sections of the related object of the pre-application ID. For instance, if you have to create a new study notification, you should click on the button New Study. Once the notification is created in draft, you will see this record here in the study notification section. Today, we will focus on the creation of a list of intended studies. So I will go clicking this button here, New List. Before proceeding, the system will ask you to insert the former application ID of your renewal. So clicking on the pencil here, you can edit the information of the pre-application ID, and in particular, in this case, you can add the former question number, for instance, of your application to be renewed. You save, and then you are ready to create a list of intended study. Follow the indication of the system, and in this way, you can go directly to the list. Indeed, the system creates immediately a page dedicated to the list of intended studies. You can see from this page the status bar of your list that now is in draft, the code of your list, obviously the name of your organization, and a direct link to your pre-application ID. So basically you can go back and forth from the page of the pre-application ID and the list of intended study from a link like this. In the page of the list of intended studies, you have two sections. The section list, where you can find all your intended studies, the public consultation related to your list, and the pre-submission advice on renewal that you will receive at the end of the process. In the other section, details, you have a summary basically of the information of your list, your contact name, the pre-application ID, so again the link to go back and forth, but importantly, the status of your list that is also displayed here in the status bar. So let's say that we are ready and we are going to create a new intended study. To do that, I will click on New Intended Study button. The system will open the form to create the intended study. You can put a title, for instance, testing potential of X, Y, Z. Remember that if you type a title of a study that is not in English, you are requested to indicate also the English name of the study. In the study scope section, you should indicate the study type. In this case, there is one that is fitting the type of testing potential, so that's content. Then the study objective, you should summarize the study objective. So, for instance, in this case, I don't know, assessment of testing potential. Remember, this is only an example. In a real case, you should describe more deeply maybe your study objective. You should also indicate the study guideline. For this example, I will select order, so order. If you select order, you see that the study design description becomes mandatory. You can see that with this star near the name, so you see required. In the study design description, you should indicate, for instance, the guidelines that you follow or a particular document. So, for instance, just for example, to assess the testing potential, we will follow the XXX, depending on what you are going to follow for your study. And then when you are ready with the information, you can click on Next. Follow the indication of the system, and going back in the section List, you see that now the intended study that you created is here in the list of intended study section. If you want to modify the information that you have already submitted or you submitted 3 days ago, you can go when the list is in draft or in clarification needed in the study record by clicking on it. Sorry, the system is a bit slow. And with the edit button, you can edit the information of the study. Maybe you have noticed that in the various pages that I'm showing, we set this square on the side with some information on the action that are allowed for each window. So, for instance, in this case, you have a brief description of edit, convert, and delete function of the intended study. So let's say that you are here and you want to go back to the list of intended study page. You find the link here. Is a link, you can click on it, and the system will bring you back to the list of intended studies page. So now I created only one study. Let's say that I'm fine. I want to submit the list. To submit the list, you have a button dedicated here. You see here, also here there is a brief description of all the functions that are related to the list of intended studies. This box here will change according to the status of the list of intended studies. And now I will show you. So let's say that we are ready. We want to submit the list. Then I click on the button, follow the instruction of the system. And now your list is ready. Please remember to refresh the page to update the information that are showed. So now the system refreshed the page, and as you see, the status bar moved from draft to submitted. You have an updated instruction here, and if you read, you can immediately understand that when the list is submitted, you cannot perform any other action on the list of intended studies record. This means that you cannot modify anymore the content of the studies. You cannot add new studies. Obviously, you cannot also delete because it's submitted. And you should wait for EFSA that contact you back during the administrative check. So now I finished my part of the demo and I will pass the floor to my colleague, Sara. Please, Sara, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Federico. My name is Sara De Berardis. I'm a scientific coordinator in the front desk and workforce planning unit, and I will continue with the second part of the live demo to introduce how to convert an intended study into a draft notifiable study, and then in the second part, the possibility to notify a study under Article 32B of the General Food Law while a list of intended study is submitted. Let's start with the first point, so the conversion of an intended study into a draft notifiable study. This new functionality has been made available with the recent digital enhancement and allows to convert a record that is included in the list of intended studies into a draft study notification to be after notified according to Article 32B of the General Food Law. This possibility is given at different stages in the process. In the moment that the list of intended studies is in draft, meaning that has not been submitted yet, and it's also available when the list of intended studies is in clarification needed, meaning that the list has been submitted to EFSA and EFSA has requested clarification on it. This possibility is given at these stages because it may happen that a study that is included in the list of intended studies is going to be commissioned, and for the sake of time, you cannot wait until renewal pre-submission advice is given. Finally, the conversion is also available the moment that you receive the renewal pre-submission advice, and this will give you the possibility to easily convert all the studies that were present in the list into draft notifiable studies for notification under Article 32B. I will now guide you through the different possibilities, and let's start with the conversion of a single study record from the list of intended studies. To do that, the first thing is to retrieve the intended study that I want to convert. I can do that from the pre-application ID. I can either open the pre-application ID from the list, or I can retrieve directly the list of intended studies from this menu. In this case, I will show you this option. So I go here, I have all the list of intended studies that I prepared. I will use this one, which is in draft. Once I open the list, I can see from this page the studies, the intended studies that are included. If I want to convert one of those studies, I select, for example, the second one here in the list. By clicking on it, I open the details of the studies, and on this menu, I found the button Convert. By clicking here, I'm able to transform this intended study into a draft notification. So as soon as I click on Next here, what happens is that the intended study is removed from the list of intended study and will be retrievable as a draft notification under the same pre-application ID where this list of intended study is placed. So I click on Next. I received the confirmation that the study has been successfully converted, and if I click on Go to Study Notification, I see that now this study is in status draft. Okay. These studies, as I was saying before, is placed under the pre-application ID where we were working. From here, this is in draft, so to complete the notification process, I can edit from here the study record, insert all the mandatory information as highlighted here, and then select operation and proceed with the notification under Article 32B. So this is the path to follow in case you need to convert a single study record. I will show you now a second possibility in case you need to convert one or more studies. In this case, the possibilities that you have in the system is to use the mass conversion. So again, I open a pre-application ID from the list. In this case, I will retrieve the list from here. Let's use this one. If I click, I can open the pre-application ID, and from here, I will be able to retrieve the list of intended studies from this box on the right. This list is in clarification needed, so I can open it and proceed with the mass conversion. Okay, you see here that this list contains at the moment 3 intended studies. If I click on mass conversion, a new window will open with the list of intended studies. If I click here, I can select all the studies for the mass conversion. Alternatively, I can select only those that I want to convert and leave the others in the list of intended studies. So in this case, for example, if I click in this way, I will convert these 2 studies, these 2 intended studies in draft notifiable studies, while the purity will remain in the list of intended studies. This means that the 2 studies that I'm going to convert will be again removed from the list of intended studies because we are at the stage of clarification needed, so the public consultation has not been started yet. I have the possibility to use the mass conversion also once I receive the renewal pre-submission advice. So at that stage, I need to proceed with the commissioning of the study that I actually intend to perform, and I can use the mass conversion to select all of them if all are confirmed, or those that I will actually perform. In this case, the moment I proceed with the conversion, the list of intended studies will remain unchanged. So the study will not be removed from the list because we are at the end of the process. So basically, the list of intended studies is will remain untouched, being a record that has already been going through the public consultation. However, the moment you proceed with the mass conversion, you will be able to see all the studies that have been converted under the pre-application ID as draft notifiable study so that you can easily proceed without reinserting the information with the notification under Article 32B. So these were the main possibilities that you have for using this new functionality, the conversion, the mass conversion. And I will go now to the second point of this part of the live demo, which is the possibility to notify while a list of intended studies is submitted. Okay, so back to the list of intended studies. A few seconds that is taking to open the pages. Okay, if I click here again on the list of intended studies, we have, for example, this list that is submitted. So if I open it, I have the possibility to insert a study notification under Article 32B. So we have a pre-application ID that has a list of intended study that is, in this case, submitted. But just to be clear, this possibility is given at any stage. So regardless of the status of the list of intended studies, you will always have the possibility to submit, if needed, a study notification under Article 32B. So to do that, we go in the pre-application ID and we can click on the button New Study. By clicking on New Study, I can enter the study notification. I will now insert just an example with the minimum of information needed to create the draft, just to show you how it works. So I click on Next, and the study notification is created as a draft. If I click here on Go to the New Study, I can access the detail of the study notification just inserted in draft, and I can use the edit functionality to include all the information that is requested. In this case, I will insert the starting date, and I remind you that the study must be notified before they start. So I select a future date. I need also to insert the planned completion date, the study type, I'm now inserting values without paying too much attention on what I inserted, just to show you how to proceed. This information is directly retrieved from the pre-application ID. Then I can select a study guideline. If I click on Other, I will need also to insert some detail on the study protocol. And I click on Next to update the study notification. Then I can select Operation to proceed with the notification. In this case, I missed one information that is mandatory, so I need to go back, edit, and add what the system is suggesting me to insert. In this case, the study objective. Okay, now the notification should be complete because I addressed what the system was suggesting. So I can just refresh. And with the draft notification that is now ready, I can proceed with the notification that is the notification under Article 32B. Just click on Select Operation and proceed with Notify. At this stage, the system will ask for information on the laboratory. The information on the laboratory is not editable the moment you click on Edit from here, from the study record, but is requested the moment you proceed with the notification. And here you have three possibilities. If the study is performed in an external testing facility, in an external laboratory, you can retrieve the name of the laboratory performing the study from here if it is already registered in the Connect EFSA portal. So you start typing and the system will suggest the laboratory if already registered. If it is not registered, you can click here, and by filling in all the contact information for the laboratory, you can proceed with the notification by clicking on Next. And the laboratory will receive a notification from the system inviting to register in Connect EFSA portal and proceed with the co-notification of the study. The last possibility, in case the study is performed in an internal testing facility, is to click on Submit to internal testing facility, and in this case you just click on Next and the study will appear as notified. So with this I covered also the last part of this live demonstration, and we can go back to the presentation. Okay, so before going to the part on the question and answers, we have collected some recommendations based on the questions that we receive on the Ask a Question tool. Some quick tips on the notification and how to use the Connect EFSA portal. We see that many users are notifying directly from the study sections and are not creating pre-application IDs. Our recommendation is to start always with the creation of a pre-application ID and to notify the studies within the pre-application IDs. This will help you maintaining organized the notification that will be then ready the moment that you will proceed with the submission of the application. So the pre-application ID that you will use in support of the application is already in the system with all the related study notification. If we go to the next slide, another clarification is on the business operator the moment you create a new pre-application ID. I replied already to a question before on the need for a relationship in case there is a consultant. Indeed, we receive frequently questions on who should be the business operator indicated in the pre-application ID when there is a consultant involved. In that case, the applicant needs to first establish a relationship with the consultant to provide the consultant with the rights to perform pre-submission activities on behalf of the potential applicant. And then the moment that the consultant is creating a pre-application ID for a potential applicant, in this field, the name that should appear is the name of the potential applicant, not the name of the consultant. And with this, I go to the last recommendation. This is the box that you see the moment you proceed with the notification according to Article 32B. When you need to insert the laboratory and the laboratory is already registered, we saw before that the system will suggest some legal entities the moment that you start typing in this field. We received several requests from users that had inserted the wrong legal entity, so they have completed the notification indicating a wrong laboratory. To overcome this issue, our recommendation is to start typing here. 3 characters are sufficient to get the suggestions from the list. But instead of clicking directly on the entries suggested in the list, you click on Show All Results. In this way, this pop-up window will be displayed, and in case you have laboratories from different legal entities with very similar name, you will have the possibility to check additional information. So, for example, the address of the laboratory, to be sure that you are submitting the notification with the correct laboratory that has performed the study. We are not able to change this information if it is wrongly inserted. The information on the laboratory is part of the notification, so no way that we can touch it. And you will also not be able to edit this information once it is included in notification. So you will need to insert a new notification with the correct laboratory name. So recommendation is to pay attention to this and to double check using this pop-up window the contact details of the laboratory before closing the notification. Okay, so that's it from my side, and I thank you for your attention, and I pass the floor to Goran.
Thank you so much, Sara and Federico, for this concise presentation. And here we will move to the next part of the webinar, and this would be the question and answer session. I would also thank our participants for submitting numerous questions via the chat box, and to our colleagues in the back scene supporting us who have already provided numerous answers. Thank you also for those who submitted the questions also in between before the very event. Now I will go into the question and answer live session, and we will provide oral explanations to a number of questions that requires a more extensive answer. We will start with few questions that we have collected from participants that submitted the question in the registration form before the event, and then also take a few questions that we have collected today. So I invite here my colleague Thomas to take the floor and to respond to first set of questions. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Goran. I will start with the following question. Is it possible to have a full list of study types currently implemented in the portal? You can find the full list of study types and study guidelines among EFSA's harmonized terminology for scientific research, which is published on Zenodo, and for which we will shortly post the exact link to the Q&A chat. Having these lists directly available from the tool is also being considered for one of the upcoming releases. Now I move to the next question. Could you demonstrate how to filter studies that were previously notified by the applicant? How to filter the list of studies, for example, by substance? As an applicant, you can find all studies you notified within the section Studies under the tab Notified or Co-notified. Nevertheless, we understand that this solution is limited, and we are planning to address this shortcoming by introducing a new reporting functionality in one of the upcoming releases. This functionality will give you also the option to filter or sort, for example, by status, laboratory, study type, and also by individual components. For the next question, I will pass the floor to Federico.
Thank you, Thomas. I will reply to another question that we received via the form. The question is, the studies that are notified after the publication of the list of intended studies are not published to be commented by the public? So the list of intended studies, as you intend from the name, is a list of studies that you intend to conduct for supporting your renewal. So only the studies that are in the list, the intended studies that are in the list at the moment of the submission, will go in the public consultation. Notified studies and co-notified studies are not intended anymore, because notified and co-notified, I mean, suppose that you have already a contract with a laboratory that started already the studies. Also because to notify a study, you should do that before the starting date of the study. So these are not intended anymore. So no, studies notified and co-notified will not be published for the public consultation. Thank you, and I will give back the floor to Goran.
Thank you a lot to Federico and Thomas. And here we will finish with the question and answer part. For the sake of the time, I will move to a few last slides to provide you with additional information before we close the seminar today. I would like to remind you about our social media activity and the way how we communicate with the applicants. We have established a LinkedIn group. This group was created to provide support to applicants, and if you are a current or potential food and feed regulated product applicant, this group is right place for you. At the moment we have some 600 members, and the group is growing bigger. What you can find here at this social media channel is updates with relevant information and material to support applicants, also updates on the progress with the IT tools and platforms, alerts on new training materials and on upcoming events, also clarifications on frequently asked questions. But we also see this space as a possibility to exchange between peers on common issues and to share the best experience. Before we close the webinar today, let me also share some information about the follow-up. So in case some questions remained unanswered, and indeed we have received many questions today, thank you very much for your active participation. We would encourage you to submit those questions via the Ask a Question tool, and here you can find the correct link to the application. The recording of the webinar will be posted at our web page in coming days, together with the presentation, and also at our web page dedicated to applicants. We have really a number of information to support you for the submission of the applications along the whole life cycle. Not to forget the feedback, because we value a lot your input, and it is essential for us to improve our future webinars and events. I would, for that reason, invite you to take a few minutes to fill in the satisfaction survey. You will receive it shortly in your mailbox. So, in this also survey, you may indicate any topics that you find relevant and you would like to see addressed in our future events. With this, I would like to thank you for attending this webinar today. On behalf of our EFSA team, I thank you for your cooperation and engagement. Thank you again for your attention, and I wish you a nice day.